Okay, so we have the Trump-Zelensky negotiation lessons. There is a lot going on here. My name is Ori. I'm director for go-to-market for Manos Health, healthcare marketing and consulting firm, and I run Mirraponte, which is an outreach agency with my wife. But a lot of my work, especially with our clients, is to explain sales and negotiation and talking to leads that come from outreach. There's a lot that we can learn here. I think this is probably the most kind of exciting negotiation that I can remember seeing, certainly that's been in the news. So I think it's a good opportunity to go through a lot of this stuff. The first thing I want to talk about is Zelensky's uniform or suit. I'm going to play this for you.
My second question for President Zelensky. Do you ever, why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see, do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such. I will wear costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one, maybe something like yours. Yes, maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than Thank you.
Okay, so here's what's going on. So he has he wears a more normal or a more formal uniform because it's all black, which is a more somber color, and he has the little Ukraine defense logo, and he's also speaking in English. So he's making some pretty big concessions. Usually seen with an interpreter, and he's wearing like his olive t-shirt. So he's sort of taking this more seriously, which I mean I like to see that. He's in the Oval Office. He's but the way he answered the question, I thought was a little too cutesy because the reporter is speaking for the American people at this point. He's asking questions that a lot of people have. He could have said something like, hey, my heart is... Like, we know why he wears the suit. We know why he doesn't wear the suit because he's always at war. His heart is always with the Ukrainian people. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, this stuff, it risks being contrived and performative. Like, look at this DeRay, like the vest. Remember this vest, like the Black Lives Matter? I'm wearing the Patagonia vest because this is when I was tear gassed. This is when I was dragged by my ankles. And I'm like, okay, you can do that a couple of times. When you do that over and over and over again, and you're like, I'm wearing this because I'm a better person than you, especially if somebody like Trump who got shot in a uniform, in a suit, and he's like, well, I take it more seriously because I'm wearing a Henley. Like, when you're using it as a way to flex moral authority, I don't think moral authority works well with very high-level negotiation. People don't like being treated like you're better than them, implicitly or explicitly. And the suit's really, the lack of suit is really a symbol of that. I'm taking this more seriously. My country's at war. Therefore, I'm wearing a Henley. And I'm like, it's not, it's, when it backfires pretty hard. And also, like, there's a sense that this is a theater and he's an actor and he's playing a role and the real person is behind the scenes, which I think is a pretty accurate portrayal of Zelensky. It's not like you don't get the sense like he's really in charge, like he's representing something. And this is also going to be a big problem down the road. So this is just my sense. I don't really understand all the political stuff. By the way, I got really upset too. It's by the way, this is things heat up really quickly. They were talking for like 45 minutes. It was really nice. And it's just this like end here where we start the video where it heats up. This is very normal in negotiations. I had a similar situation with a clinic. They were maxed out in one area for hyperbaric, and we suggested in the first call, we're like, okay, well, here's a bunch of different things we can do. We can do IV SEO, we can do cold call, like what systems do you want to build out? We gave them 4 different plans, and they rejected all of them. They got upset with me for suggesting they use an offshore caller. I'm like, you don't have to use an offshore caller. You can use your own people, or I can help you hire somebody. I have to charge you more, but I can do it. They just reject. They didn't want to do anything. And when that happens, like when people get upset like this, like you guys have all probably seen the clip, but I'll play it for you. It's usually when someone is acting in bad faith. Like when you feel like they don't really want to do anything. And you're also, the other thing that I don't like that what he does is he forces the judge to take sides, and it undermines the judge, because it's like you're like my parents divorced. It would be like my dad saying you are evil, you're on her side, and it's like that's never going to score you points. I don't know why he thought the only reason is he got coached that he could get away with it. And a lot of times in sales, like when there's a new sheriff in town, and you have to adjust really fast. We've all done this where we think we're selling to the cheerleader. The cheerleader's not there anymore. It's a gatekeeper now, but we still pretend that it's gonna go easy. So let's start this at the beginning. I'm just gonna move this here.
Broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yeah, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to. I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
Okay, all right. So a bunch of stuff going on here. I don't like when people this is a direct challenge on subject matter, and it's good that he calls him out on this. It's very smart for JD to talk about the conscription because it's a very strong visual. So he knows that when he says I've watched and seen, it's a propaganda tour, but here's what's going on behind. He knows these videos are going to be circulated online, and the videos are very sad of the people getting conscripted, and it's very visually persuasive. When he says watched and seen, very, very smart. It starts as a Socratic, do you really think this? And then it starts to get into sort of loaded question territory. I think he's entitled to that. Zelensky's response is a very Steve Jobs frame, all wars have problems, all cell phones have problems. But it backfires when he turns into a veiled threat. If you don't stop Russia, they're going to hurt you too. Because it's directly undermining your negotiation partner. It undermines America's soft power and also the executive reputation as a negotiator and ideal legacy as a peacemaker. So it's really antagonistic. A lot of times a figurehead person will do this. So I had a client who there was a female CEO from Saudi Arabia, and she was being very belligerent right before the contract was signed. They already agreed on pricing. They were going to work together a few months ago. It didn't end up happening. And then the female CEO was just like, hey, can you go down and price more? And finally, after a bunch of concessions, he got sick of it. And he messaged me. He's like, well, what do I do? So I said, you are behaving without honor. You gave me your word. You're now going back on your word. Why should we? And then what happened was, because I had a sense that Saudi Arabia is a very patriarchal country, I had a sense the female CEO was more of a figurehead. The decision maker was really behind the scenes. So when you make a very, very dismissive gesture to the figurehead, the decision makers behind the scenes will usually step in and they'll get the deal done. And that's, I think, really what happens here is there's two sales, there's power, there's repetition, there's a reverse moral authority frame that's going on, where it's like, how dare you do this to America? You should be more respectful. Why are you acting like this? And another thing is when he's campaigning for the opposition, it's easy to find images and videos of him with Shapiro in the munitions plant in PA. So it's clearly an implicit or explicit endorsement for Kamala and Biden. So he doesn't have the other sale here is that he doesn't have leverage. He doesn't have cards, and he's the sale that Trump and JD are trying to make is he's too emotionally invested in the conflict. He's lost too much over the last couple of years, and he's not going to listen to reason. So it's like Moby Dick, you lose the leg to the white whale, and then if you don't stop him, he's going to take the whole ship down, which is World War III. And that's really the sail, the larger sail that Trump is making. Trump is really, really good at framing the conflict in terms of what's best for the world, and more importantly, what's going to send the world into World War III. Because we'll do a lot more to avoid World War III than we will to help somebody across the pond. I think they just signed the mineral deal yesterday or this morning or something. So I get this. I got the sense here that he wasn't really in charge. He was preparing for the last meeting. We do this a lot in sales, where it's like we get a really good cheerleader, and then the gatekeeper comes, and we think we're still with the cheerleader, or vice versa. We get the gatekeeper. We don't realize when we've passed the gatekeeper, it's time to be nice. But you can never take anything for granted in negotiation. You always have to pivot very, very quickly. Things can change and heat up and cool down very, very, very fast. That you don't have the cards line is really what I think people are going to remember. Trump is really good at finding these movie moments. Another one is sheets versus javelins. So it's a really good visual persuasion, again, because it's bed sheets versus actual weapons. Like Obama gave you bed sheets, I gave you javelins. How true is it? I don't know. I didn't Google, but probably there's a little bit of hyperbole here, but it's the good kind of. It oversimplifies for the sake of making the larger point. This is really good political theater, and he ends it at a high point with a joke to make us feel good. He doesn't drag Zelensky for too long, because at the end of the day, this is a guy who is an actor who's now in charge. Like, how much political power he has and who put him up there, these are different questions. But I feel like the point of this negotiation was for people behind the scenes and for the American public and for the world. I've just never seen our country negotiate this well. I can't remember it. It's just, I didn't think the government could do this. And the other thing that I like about this is Trump is really good at taking politically incorrect issues that most people agree on, so gun control, transgender, Ukraine, and using them to score political points. So you have a taboo topic nobody really wants to talk about, but when you poll people, you see people are overwhelmingly against transgender and female sports, for example. But it's not politically correct to talk about it. He's really good at doing that. So I think this is going to help his approval rating. I do think that the U.S. is going to resolve the conflict in a way that serves our interest. And I have a lot of sympathy for Zelensky and the Ukrainian people here as well, because I feel like a lot of the reason Ukraine got into this is because they were promised Western investment and they were promised NATO membership if they left Team Russia. And so often in war, these people are just caught as cogs in the wheel. And I hope for everyone's sake that we can resolve these things as quickly as possible, prevent loss of life. I've had Ukrainian clients, I've had Russian and Ukrainian friends. I had a huge crush on a Ukrainian girl in summer camp. I hope this stuff gets resolved. And when you negotiate tough, it makes everybody's life better. So don't be afraid to do this. I'll link the whole video. I don't want to go through it because then the whole video is going to be like 30 minutes long. But these are the key lessons you want to take away here.